Hey guys, what's up? This is Brett. Welcome to a new episode of Friday on the Turntable. Apologies once again for the lack of episode last week when I was out of town in San Diego. If you missed my details on that trip, be sure to check out my last Planet Rotations video. One also quick little thing, just a quick shout out to my good friend Jeton Damone, who you can see my original Faded t-shirt here, who released her first solo album since 2000. So the Reflecting Shadow, available on Bandcamp. Congratulations, Jeton. I'm really enjoying the album. So today we are talking about the band The Laws. Now this album is kind of the year to date it. When it came out in 1990 in the UK in October, and then it was released in the US in 1991. So usually when a album kind of crosses over the years, I'll take the original release date for the country the band is from. So since The Laws are a UK band, I'm going to go with 1990 as the release date. So first off, I'm going to show 5 things that came out in the year 1990. I picked things that I was really listening to that year in 1990. I was in high school, and it really brings back going through and finding things. I had a hard time filtering only 5 because there's so many things, and it brings back such a strange time period, high school years. So I immediately just thought of Concrete Blonde's Bloodletting. Phenomenal record. The video for Joey, I remember, man, just seeing that just constantly on MTV. It was just a good time period. Mazzy Star's first album, She Hangs Brightly, listening to that all the time back then as well. Oh man. Megadeth, Rust in Peace. I remember there was Headbangers Ball was on MTV on Saturday night at midnight, and seeing that video for Hangar 18, killer. Here's another one, just shows the variety of stuff here. And all these things were played. You'd see these videos back to back then. Man, Steve Vai, Passion and Warfare is my sealed copy here. I have it on CD and cassette also. But the audience is listening. They'd play that on MTV as well. And man, just great cover artwork on that one. And then lastly, 1990, one of my absolute favorite albums of all time. And I pulled this off the wall. It's framed here. This is Jane's Addiction's Ritual de lo Habitual. Seriously, one of my favorite albums of all time. So 1990, man, just a killer year for music. I was going through and researching albums that came out in 1990, and it was just boom, 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 one great one after another. And I think about the times, like this year, and it's like it seems like I wait for several months for a cool album to come out that I'm really excited about. And back then, it was just non-stop stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's that way for people that are growing up in this time period, but man, back then there was just fruitful pickings on the on excellent albums. So The Laws, British band from Liverpool, released in October of 1990, like I said, in the UK, and they were a band from Liverpool. And believe it or not, this is their one and only album. This album has such a strange history to it because it was recorded multiple times with several producers. I wrote down a list of just some of the more well-known ones because there was a lot of producers that worked on sessions for this. It was scrapped, redone, scrapped again. So Mike Hedges was one of the producers. He produced the early Cure albums. He worked with Susie and the Banshees. I think he engineered Bauhaus's Mask album. He also had John Porter, who did the Smiths, Japan. John Leckie, who did the Stone Roses debut, worked with the Verve, worked on The Bends by Radiohead. And then the version that we know, this one here, was done by Steve Lillywhite. Steve Lillywhite did U2. I think he did Susie and the Banshees, Psychedelic Furs. All those ones come to mind. So yeah, and right after the album was released, the band disowned it. So, and then kind of the singer Lee Mavers went into like a hibernation, if you will, a la, like people like Syd Barrett and Sly Stone, where they just kind of disappeared from public life, and so the band actually reunited in recent years and has been touring, but as far as I know, they haven't released any new material. I discovered this band just like a lot of people from my generation back when the video for There She Goes was played on MTV all the time. And such a catchy, just kind of what I would consider just a perfect pop song. It's been covered, you know, I've heard it, I still hear it to this day when I'm grocery shopping, and there's a version with a female singer, a cover version of that, which probably a lot of people have heard. But the original version is just so phenomenal. There's a part in it where, you know, it's very catchy pop, and then towards the end the song takes this one shift on this minor chord, and it's just chilling. And it's such a great composition and such great songwriting. And you know, that's a perfect place to start, is that single, because you will instantly love it. So like I said, the album was recorded multiple times. So There She Goes was the first, or not the first single, but it was released. The original version of it was produced with a guy named Bob Andrews. So the version that was the original single was released back in 1988, and it had a guy named Chris Sharrock who played drums on the original version, and he went on to play in Oasis, and he's currently in BDI, but he also played in like World Party and Lightning Seeds. And then the version that we know was a remix of that original single, which Steve Lillywhite did. So the album has a really, you know, I want to really try to describe the sound of this, because it's not acoustic singer-songwriter stuff, even though it's largely acoustic based. It has such a interesting, there's just an interesting feel of the music. It's very, it's really quite hard to describe, but it is a really kind of almost like a rootsy acoustic feel to it. And my favorite track on here is Timeless Melody, which I highly recommend checking that one out. And it just has this real emotional sound to it. And another songs to also explore are Feeling, which is great. And these songs I'm mentioning were actually all released as singles. And then the album ends with a track called Looking Glass, which I'm kind of glad, because most of the songs are kind of short, concise, but Looking Glass is a bit more sprawling. I think it's over 7 minutes long. It's a killer closing track. If you remember my thread that I started last year, you know, that is a song that would definitely be included as a killer closing track, because it's a bit more experimental and, like I said, sprawling, and it's a great closing track for on this one. This was originally released, I think it was on was it Lookout or London? Oh shoot, can't remember the name of the original label. But this version that I have is a reissue that came out in 2008 on Plain Recordings, and the pressing isn't actually too bad. This version has the lyrics on, or Go Disc? Was it on Go Disc? God, can't remember. So it has the lyrics back there, and then it also has some pictures in the sleeve, and it's a 180 gram pressing. Just a plain black label with the song titles. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to feature this album today is because it kind of gets overlooked. It seems like I never see anyone show this album, and you know, for people that like bands that are getting into bands like the Sundays, whose debut album also was a 1990 release, bands like the Sundays, you know, while it's not as pretty and as delicate as the Sundays, it still fits in with that kind of vibe, and I'd highly recommend seeking this out. What's interesting is a couple years back there was a deluxe CD version of this album, which had, I guess, an original cassette tape was found with the sessions. I think it was the Mike Hedges sessions where they recorded the whole album, and there was a cassette found, and they released that. So when they reissued the album on CD, they had a whole second disc that had the Mike Hedges album version on it, as well as some sessions from some of the other producers. So interesting to seek out and hear how kind of the songs evolved, and how the different producers offered different takes on the songs, and how they kind of constructed it. I never got to see this band live. I'm not sure they ever even came to Phoenix. I don't think. I know they did some U.S. dates. I remember I think they played at the Metro in Chicago. I know they played in L.A. The video for There She Goes was filmed in Los Angeles. But, and, you know, their very first single was, you know, 3 years before this album came out, and it was a track called Way Out. So a lot of these songs have had several different versions. So the band is, I don't know if they're touring this year or whatever, but I was kind of researching and seeing what they're up to, and they seem to be touring around the UK in the last 5 years or so. But I think I'm going to leave it right there. So The Laws, 1990, self-titled. Like I said, their only studio album. So definitely check it out, guys. Talk to you soon.